Awesome. All right. So in today's lesson for the hidden gems method, we're going to be going over detailed comping now. The last lesson we went over quick dirty comps, just the strategy of burning through all the properties that you're finding on Zillow, Redfin, all the other realtor places. But this is going to be the detailed underwriting, the nitty gritty, and all the actual expenses that goes into the property and makes it a deal. Sam's prepared all the calculators for you. We're going to be sharing all the links and access to these calculators after all of this. So if you need that, let us know. Take it away, Sam.
Okay, so um, this is basically what the next step. So after you find a property, you do the dirty comping that we taught you in the last module, and you decide, hey, I think this is a deal. I would say you have a conversation with the landlord and make sure they're interested. And if they show interest, then I would start the full underwriting. So basically, this would be the step before locking up the deal. And this kind of goes through everything that you have knowledge on the property and everything. And then you're able to break down what you think you'll net on it to make sure that you want to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I will share my screen here. This is a short-term rental underwriting calculator. It has the ability to do multifamily as well as single-family homes. So you'll just change the number of units and you're always entering the revenue as a per unit. And then every cell that is highlighted is one that you would be filling out. Everything else just automatically calculates. So I'm going to use an example of a property that we are actually letting go of just because of the area and the expenses on the property. So it's estimated to make $70,000 in revenue a year, which I feel like people who, there's a lot of people who will be like, wow, you can make $50,000 of revenue on this property a year. And, it's kind of like a sales point. So this is going to show you the importance of underwriting and understanding the expenses of a short-term rental because they are very different than that of a long-term rental. Okay. So I just put in the gross revenue. It automatically calculates it out per month. So we know that we're making $5,833 per month on average. We average 6 cleans per month. I would say in busier months like the summer, you might see 8, like 2 check-ins a month or a week. And so months where you might fill it with a long-term rental, obviously, or like a midterm, you might see 1 or 4 or something like that. But on average, I like to use 6 as a safe number. So then with the cleaning fee, if you have AirDNA, what I do is I go into the comps that I'm using to decide revenue and I click the link to go to their Airbnb page. And from there, I look at what they're charging as a cleaning fee to get an estimate. And I average out like the top 3 comps to decide typically what the cleaning costs will be. I will show you how to do that in Airbnb specifically, so you can still do it if you don't have AirDNA. So I have Airbnb right here. And so what I did was I put Minneapolis, which is where this property is that I'm doing a underwriting on. And I just searched the area for properties that have 6 guests. I would do 6 or 8 or somewhere along the lines of what your property can do. So if your property is a 4-bedroom, maybe I should increase this to 8 because our property is a 4-bedroom. So it's getting properties that are similar sizes to your property. So then I zoom in to where the property is. Our property is in this like area right here, but any property kind of in the same area is fine for this because we're really just looking at like the whole city and the cost within that city. So then I will open up a couple of these in separate tabs. So I'll just open like the top 4. So let me do that. It's just going to load here. So while these are loading, we'll give this a minute. AirDNA or Airbnb's been a little slow.
Yeah.
If nothing else, what I'll do is I'll just show it on this one and then you'll be able to average 3 or 4. So that's what I'll do just so that I'm not freezing up here, but I'll show you. So this is a property. It's got 5 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. Our property has 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. Similar enough where I feel like it can be used as a comparable. This says the cleaning fee is $202. I would go through the other ones and I would take those and then I'd basically add the three numbers together, divide by 3, and get the average cleaning fee. I happen to know that our property costs $200 to clean. So this is like a pretty good average, right? Like $202, that would have been a really safe bet for us. So I'll take that number and then I will let this load. And so I will put for cleaning fee per clean, $200. Now, if we have a line here for property management, so that's if you were hiring a property management company, you are not doing that because we're teaching you how to become experts on short-term rentals. So we can just delete that right out. That is an expense that you do not have to worry about because you're going to be able to automate and manage and optimize your own listing by the end of this, saving you like 20% typically on average of your revenue. So right off the bat, saving you $14,000 a year, which is the average or what we would charge if we were operating your Airbnb for you. So really maximizing your income. Cleaning fee here, that's already going to calculate the based off of the $200 and the average of 6. So that expense is all taken care of. Property management, as we said, that goes away. Here, I use typically the square footage. So I would go to the Zillow on the property, find the square footage, and then I use the dirty comp number. So on this property, it's about a 2,500 square foot, 2,800 square foot house. So on the spreadsheet we showed you before, I'm not going to pull it up now, but I'll just put in an average based off of what I know from the property. And it is approximately like a $450 a month. And that includes winter, summer, very different rates, especially in Minneapolis. So if you're unfamiliar with the area, you could ask other Airbnb operators in like the Facebook group for the area. Then talks about this a lot, but joining like Airbnbs of Minneapolis, right? And you can just shoot a message in there and say, hey guys, what is your typical utilities on a property, like a 4-bedroom property? And people will just shoot you answers. So if you're not sure you've never had a property in the winter or you've never had a property with a pool, like how much does that impact it? I would just basically send a message in there and people give you an average. Trash, I would leave it at $60 unless you know that you have to pay someone additionally to move the trash. We have had to do that. So we charge, some of our cleaners will charge $20 to come and move it for us. This is just like the trash pickup. So, use your judgment there, but I'll leave it at 60 because in this property, we just have our cleaners leave the trash bins right on the edge in Minneapolis will come pick them up and leave them there. And then we have guests put the trash there. So we don't have to pay anyone. If you do, just add that in here. Wi-Fi and internet. On this property,
$75.
Yeah, we use Comcast. It's about $75. So add that in there. We do not use cable on any of our properties. We do Netflix, Hulu on both or on our properties, and we just use one login and we have a profile for each property. So I don't expense that because it's $12 a month divided by all of our properties, less than $1 a day or a month per property. So I do not expense that. I recommend that you do that as well. You can also do where the guest brings their own login. So supplies, I do it based off of the bedrooms. So there's 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. Typically, we're buying paper towels, toilet paper and whatnot. I typically will allot for about $100 on this size property per month. And, if it's bigger, you could go up to 150. I usually will go higher rather than lower because you don't want to be underwriting low and thinking you're going to make $2,000 and then all of a sudden, your supplies actually cost you $200 and your insurance costs an extra $100 more. And then all of these things eat away at your profit. I'd rather see you kind of overestimate your expenses and then be really happy to have extra profit.
Just to clarify, I wanted to touch base on what supplies means. Supplies, since it's a kind of a relatively smaller number, the supplies are basically just like paper towels, toilet paper, dish soap, those types of things that you, after one start stock, everything restocked after that's going to just kind of trickle on down. So it's not a major expense by any means. And we'll teach you also how to actually generate a profit on the cleaning fees that'll help mitigate some of this expense, if not all of it. But go ahead, Sam.
So lawn care, snow care, you're going to need to know basically how big the driveway is on average. You can again ask this in a Facebook group, how much it costs to plow in the area, or, do you have a half acre? Do you have no lawn? Some properties in like Arizona and whatnot, or California are like sand lawns. There's no like care. So, just weighing those things. Typically on this, what I would do is you can also call companies and get quotes, and they'll be able to tell you the expenses. On this property, we average about a $200 a month between snow and lawn. So maintenance person versus maintenance, I call there. So if you were doing a larger property, you might have a maintenance person on hand, basically, and you're paying them. So in the case of a single family house, basically we just keep a budget of maintenance. And I'm actually going to combine that with war chest here because we don't own the property. So both of those things. So like war chest could be if you owned the property, maintenance would be, doing minor things like that. But I'm just going to combine them for this case. So we'll put a 0 there. We'll talk more on short-term rental insurance. There's different options, but just on this size property, $250 for insurance. For proper insurance, there's different methods, but I'll account for that in here. And then
add the war chest charge.
Yep. Lastly, so I like to keep it about $75 a month towards a war chest, mainly because of the fact, here we'll do 100 just to be safe, but mainly because on a 12-year or a 12-month lease, there's only so many different expenses under $500 that will come up. So if it comes up every 5 months or so, then you already paid for it from your war chest. So I basically just try to allot a certain portion. Now, if the house was a bigger house or you were the owner, then these figures would change. But for arbitrage, $100 we'll go with.
Yep.
Okay. So our expenses on this property are somewhere around $2,500. Now, if you were doing a lending for your furnishing, because you have to pay to furnish the property, you can account for that down here in your debt payments. But so $2,500, $2,435 is what the expenses are on this property. So you can see here without putting in the mortgage or any payments, private loans or whatnot, our net profit would be $3,398. Now rent on this property this is the reason we're dropping it. So it is $3,400.
Yep.
So on average, this property is basically a break-even property. Now what I would do is kind of, if you were deciding how much you could pay for this property, if you're making $3,398 after all expenses, basically, if you want to make $2,000, you can do $2,000. So you can make $1,398.33. So that's how much your mortgage could be to net you $2,000, or that's how much your rent payment could be. So you wouldn't want to take this property if it was at all over $1,400, basically.
Yep.
So really not a deal.
No.
Hence why we're dropping it. It was one of our first properties.
It projected it to be a higher gross revenue overall, and the market took a shift over the last year and a half, and it has now since turned into the red. And that happens. That's part of the game.
Yep. So if this property had made $100,000 and rent was $3,400, that makes
much different.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
A winning property.
So you just have to be aware, be conservative with your comps and whatnot. But this is our spreadsheet, and this is how we detailed underwrite. If you were looking for a lender or something along those lines on a property, I would add the links to the specific comps and put in the revenue and everything, and then average it out. So you can see the average revenue and the average occupancy of your comparables. And that kind of creates a spreadsheet of, hey, this is what I can do with this property. So these are the properties I'm comparing to. This is what I'm going to do performance-wise, and this is what I'm going to net. So it really shows, it's a good showcase of like what this property can do.
Mhm.